Welcome back, everyone. We're here today with our weekend house calls, part 2, as I like to say. Yesterday, we went through some pretty amazing questions. Hopefully you were able to tune in to episode 2311 because we went over talking about ketoacidosis. Is that something to worry about while on low-carb keto-based diets? We also went over what's better, the Berkey water filter versus spring water. We talked about COPD and breath-based issues, what to look for there. We also talked about new clients in our practice. How many new clients do we work with? We talked about also looking at essentially, as the body's fallen asleep, what happens when it jerks? Why does it jerk like that? So we went through those different scenarios, and then we went over some children's health. So definitely check that out. That was episode 2311. Today, if you want to follow along with the questions, head on over to stephencabral.com/2312. All right, let's dive into the questions. I literally just opened up the document, so I never have any idea what the questions are going to be, but always excited to see what we have from our community. The first one's from Jard or Jardy. And it says, hey, I just started listening to your podcast and I've been loving it so far. I have an exercise physiology background, so I'm fairly well versed in Western medicine, but I'm new to functional medicine side of life. I'm a 25-year-old PT student that's been lifting consistently for several years and was diagnosed with narcolepsy 3 years ago. According to my sleep study, I average 40 awakenings per hour without medication, and I get 3 to 5 hours of interrupted sleep per night. The medication I take, GHB, pushes that average to about 4 to 6 hours with potentially less interruptions. I've run different labs before, and all my numbers come back perfectly healthy. You answered a question on narcolepsy before, and I've taken some supplements, but still experience issues. Do you have any other recommendations for compensating for perpetual sleep deprivation? I feel like there's no way to overcome this hurdle in terms of physical and cognitive performance and feel like I can only operate at 70% at best. All right. I'm just going to say Jard or Jardy. I'd love to be able to help you with that. So this is the way that I work in my practice, is that blood work is great, and that's what you've run before for your labs most likely. But it's only telling you if you're in a disease state or not, and you're perfectly healthy. You know, you're probably in great shape, and you're studying to be I think you said a physical therapist. So here's the thing. There's always an underlying root cause, like always. So for 3 years, I didn't get diagnosed with anything, and it was there. I always had it. It just wasn't diagnosed because they weren't running the right labs. So in my opinion, you want to run the big 5 labs. Whenever there's a mystery that you cannot figure out, you don't have to run the big 5 labs with us either. By the way, this is not like a sales call. That's not what I do. You can run the big 5 labs with anyone. You can run them with your naturopathic doctor or any integrative health practitioner level 2. And so that's totally up to you. But you want to look at heavy metals. You want to look at vitamin deficiencies. You want to look at mineral deficiencies. You want to look at gut health. You want to look at detox. You want to look at omega-6 levels to omega-3 levels. And this is all really important because if you are getting relief from gamma hydroxybutyrate, GHB, then we already know what's not going on in your body. That's why I ask every single one of my wellness clients, have you ever gotten relief, at least some, from whatever you're dealing with right now? This is how I help people get well. And they say, well, you know, when I'm on antibiotics, I don't have as much acne. Okay, so you're taking antibacterials. So maybe there's leaky gut and bacterial overgrowth. Okay, can we work on that naturally? Yes, we can. Or someone's like, I say, do you ever get relief from your allergies? They say, well, I get relief when I take Benadryl. Okay, so we at least know in part it's a histamine issue. Okay, why isn't this person producing enough under their own diamine oxidase? Why do they have more histamine in their body in the first place? So we look at those things like what's filling up the rain barrel. And it'd be the same with you. So if we already know that, you know, essentially you're taking a central nervous system, a CNS depressant, right, with GHB. So you might say, well, you've recommended some supplements or you said some supplements in the past. Sure, but that's not the whole picture. Remember, that's green medicine. We don't give a pill like a reductionist-based philosophy like in conventional medicine. It's a different philosophy. Yes, I would recommend typically in your scenario, Adrenal Soothe, full spectrum magnesium, some sleep help support at night, some liquid melatonin, like the whole complete sleep help protocol I would recommend. That's true. But also, I don't want to just supplement our way out of this. I want to figure out why has this happened in the first place. So that's essentially what I would look at without a doubt. All right. So that's the place to start. That's what I recommend. And I hope you're right back soon within the next 3 to 6 months with a nice success story. All right. Maria's up next. Hi, I just want to let you know that I'm a big fan. I'm just loving the podcast. Thank you, Maria. I was wondering if natural antibiotics, like, for example, oregano, also kill the good bacteria in the gut. I read this somewhere, and I was wondering if that was the case. This is a really good question. I think we answered it on the Cabral concept before. So let me just type that in at stephencabral.com/podcast. Let's see if we can find it. All right. So you can always search that first. stephencabral.com/podcast. Okay. So, I can't find the exact show right now because there's so many with oregano oil. But what I can share with you, though, from working with tens of thousands of gut health protocols, meaning like we've worked with hundreds of thousands of people, tens of thousands of CBO protocols, I have not seen an issue with good gut bacteria being killed. So let me just share with you some theories, again, because I'd love to be able to have $250,000 to be able to fund a study like this. I really would. And if someone has good research on this, I'd love to see it. A lot of the items such as clove, oregano oil, caprylic acid, what are some other good ones? Powder arco. They seem that are natural. And again, we can't provide medical advice, so we can't call these antibiotics. We can just call them bacterial balancers, or they do help kill bacteria. So we can see that they kill negative bacteria. Not only that, like we can literally, if you run a bacterium parasite stool test, you can actually see which ones kill the bacteria the most, which is really interesting for the individual. But one of the reasons why I know that it's not necessarily killing good bacteria, at least it may kill overgrowth of good bacteria. That's a possibility, but not normal bacteria, is because I will rerun their lab. So I'll rerun an individual's lab 16 weeks later after they begin the protocol. And I see that the bacterial levels, good bacterial levels, are normal and the bad bacterial levels have gone down. And so I can say from at least my anecdotal, because I don't have a scientific study to back it up, that it doesn't seem to kill good bacteria. It seems like most herbs, most adaptogens, that it works with the natural process of your body, which probably makes sense so that you can eat these herbs, eat these things from nature, these plants, and it doesn't actually kill the good bacteria, but it will kill the commensal or negative-based bacteria. So hopefully that was helpful, all right? But again, our CBO protocol also repopulates as well. So I do want you to know that, like, it's a very specific protocol, and yeah, we find that to be very, very helpful. So Kelsey's up next. Kelsey says, hi, Dr. Brawl. Do you have any advice for making sure your kids stay healthy at friends and family members' houses? My husband's parents will feed them McDonald's, and at sleepovers, they eat pizza and drink pop. How do you deal with this? Or do you just make sure they are healthy at home? Yeah, this is a tough one for parents, and it's a tough one for my wife and I, because when my girls were young, and they really didn't have as much of a say, we'll say, they would never like eat these foods at birthday parties. Like we would just bring other things that we already knew that they liked and just substitute them out. And honestly, they were kind of none the wiser because they were young. They were like 5 years and younger. Now they're 7 and 9 years old. They know what's going on. And so we pick and choose our battles, although they are great girls and they do listen to their body. But even still, they're still kids, right? They're still kids. And so this is what we do. We have, and I've talked about this on Mindset and Motivation Mondays, we have hard lines in the sand. If there are artificial colors or artificial flavors, it's a no. It's a hard no. And our daughters have known since 3 years old, 4 years old, that is the case. They literally, we've just taught them that. Not like danger, danger. We don't say that. It's not about that. It's these foods are literally toxic for your body. They're not good for your body. And they've felt every once in a while the effects of that when they didn't know there was something in there. Especially some kids are more sensitive than others, and my daughter is much, much more sensitive. She's one of the sweetest kids you could ever meet. You introduce something that is GMO-based or artificial flavor-based, and we didn't know it was in there, and it is a new kid. It's a different kid. And that's why I feel for parents who are dealing with kids with mood disturbances, learning-based disturbances, etc., because it's so much the food. It really is. It's not the only thing. There can be gut issues. There can be all sorts of other issues, but this is a big part of it. So we pick and choose. We pick and choose those battles. Pizza every once in a while, okay, not a problem. Cake, that's more of an issue, right? Because it could be all sorts of artificial stuff in there. So we also try to balance, can we do the smallest portion possible? Now, if they're going over your husband's parents' house, well, we've already had the discussion with my parents and my wife's parents. We don't feed these things to our kids, and we appreciate if you don't either. These are actually making them sick, and you don't want to make your grandkids sick, right? Like, I mean, that's like, just because we had it as kids doesn't mean that we need to perpetuate this going forward. So this is what we do. We can provide it for you if you'd like. You don't have to purchase it if you don't want. But this is what we would like and what we don't want. And they're good about that. And so that's what we do. So the only real issue is then birthday parties. And so we just simply do our best. And that's all I think a parent can do. All right. Thank you. Good question. Laura's up next. And Laura says, my son is suffering from black and mold exposure. So black mold exposure. He has bad headaches every day and insomnia. How do I help him get rid of his headaches? Okay, so there's two things that you need to do. One, remove the mold exposure. So that's it. So that's first. Whatever he's exposed to in terms of mold in the house, in his school, whatever it is, got to get rid of the mold, or he's just going to keep being exposed to it. The second then is you need to rid the mold from the body. And for that, we use something called the mold protocol. You can find that at stevencabral.com/shop. Again, you don't have to use the products we recommend. You don't have to, but you can at least look to see what it is that we do. And then you would have to, based on the age and weight, you would have to dose that for a child. So I do recommend working with either an integrative health practitioner or one of our team members at Equalife. And you can find that at stevencabral.com/health-coaching. All right. I've got lots of shows on mold as well. Nicholas is up next. Nicholas says, hi, Dr. Cabral. I wrote to you last summer about my wife with schizophrenia and how SBI Protects seems to help with her psychosis. Well, since then, I have become an IHP level 2, and I recently retook the HTMA. On the original HTMA we did about a year ago, my wife showed up very low on chromium, iron, and manganese. Well, on most recent HTMA, her chromium levels tripled to being really high. Her iron levels doubled to being elevated, and her manganese levels came way up. We have been doing coffee enemas and infrared saunas, along with a lot of your detoxification protocols the past year. I know Dr. Wilson talks a lot about these levels rising on a development program, and I'm assuming this is a good sign that the toxic forms of these minerals are coming out of the body. For example, I know that there is hexane chromium 3, which is toxic, and then there is chromium 6, which is the essential form. From what I've read, toxic forms of chromium, manganese, and iron can all contribute to schizophrenia. Do you have any experience with this? Is this indeed a good sign these toxins are finally leaving the body? By the way, we drink filtered water from the Berkey, so I know the water isn't contributing to the high levels that we have both taken this test twice the past year without these elevations. Okay. Nicholas, great. I mean, really great work. Like, you're doing a great, great job. I would definitely continue to look at the gut health if your wife has gotten support from recent products in the past. I would definitely continue to look at the gut. Whenever there's schizophrenia, whenever there is any type of neurological or mood or mind-based imbalance, I always look at the gut. Always, 100% of the time, always. And then if there's nothing, good, no issue. So I would run the bacterial and parasite stool test, Nicholas. That's what I would do. And then you're doing a great job with the HTMA. I think Dr. Wilson is amazing. I've spoken with Dr. Wilson before, twice on the phone. He was certainly a mentor of mine for the HTMA, and same with Dr. Eck, as well. And Dr. Eck, I believe, was Dr. Wilson's mentor. So I never got to speak with Dr. Eck, but certainly I've studied Dr. Eck's work. And so I do agree. I can't tell you for sure, right? I can't provide any medical advice, medical diagnosis, medical cures, medical treatment plans. That's outside the scope of any non-medical doctor's practice. So what I can share with you is this, though, is that it absolutely could be these toxins leaving the body. There's no doubt about that. We know heavy metals affect the mind and mood and nervous system. So how would you know? Well, you would know if you retest it again in another 4 to 6 months. If the levels are still just as high, no, then I don't think it's the same. I think that your wife, by doing the infrared saunas and a good functional medicine detox and all of these IHP two things that you're studying are going to help with that. The heavy metal detox, like keep doing all of those things for sure. But in 6 months, you retest. If those levels are still elevated, then I think that it's an exposure. So the exposure though could be a hair-based product. So just make sure that the hair-based products don't have these products in them as well. So I'm going to keep it at that because these are the most likely scenarios, and then you'll follow up and you'll let me know. But Nicholas, I mean, really keep up the great work. We love having people such as yourself inside of IHP. All right, Moxie's up next. Last question. So first, thank you for all that you do for this community. Thank you, Moxie. About 5 years ago, I developed asthma. I went to a pulmonologist who put me on a steroid inhaler and rescue inhaler. When I asked how to fix this so I don't have to depend on the inhalers, he told me some people just develop asthma later in life, that I would likely use these forever. I'm going to go out on a limb and say you and I both agree there is more to the story than that. That would be true, Moxie. There's always an underlying root cause. And just because you don't know the answer doesn't mean that that's just the way that it is, right? Okay, so the next part is this. After doing the big 5, I found a handful of foods that I should be reducing, which I have. I've been amazed at my body's response to the reduction and elimination of some foods. I no longer have chronic sinusitis or an allergy like postnasal drip. I feel better and I have tons more energy. I've even seen a reduction in my psoriasis. I've added in some vitamins and minerals from Equilife as well as the DNS Daily. Other than my asthma, I feel worlds better. My asthma bothers me most at night or in the early morning, sometimes when I laugh hard or when I'm exercising. It's been a little worse lately. I know my doctor will just increase my dosage, so I haven't gone to see him. I'm just starting a limited yeast protocol to help reset my gut. My question is, what else can I do to try to reduce my asthma, or was my pulmonologist right? All right. Well, I'm not going to go against your pulmonologist. That's not within my scope of practice to do so. I love pulmonologists. I love cardiologists. I love endocrinologists. I love every ologist. I really do. But let's have them do what they do, and let's us do what we do, right? So let's us work on the natural health side of things. Many people with asthma, I have so many shows on asthma, so I definitely recommend going to stevencabral.com/podcast. And just type in asthma. You'll see all of my shows on asthma. So oftentimes with asthma, there is a larger amount of prostaglandins in the body. So Moxie, I want you to run the omega-3 and inflammation test, all right? That will look at prostaglandins. That will look at too many omega-6s. The next thing I want you to do is actually look at what are your mineral levels. So many people with asthma, believe it or not, they have the reverse of other people. They have an inverse ratio of calcium to magnesium, which says this. They have less calcium than magnesium in terms of a functional ratio. That's very important. Extremely important. So we were just talking about Dr. Wilson's work and a minerals and metals analysis. This is something that we have to look at, all right? So if you can run 3 labs, I would run the starter kit. It's going to give you all your vitamin and mineral levels. Look at your gut health. You'll run that after you do your limited yeast protocol, about like 3 or 4 weeks later when you're done with it. Do the CBO finisher, by the way, after you do your limited yeast protocol. So CBO finisher. And you'll want to look at your overall mineral levels, your B vitamin levels for overall methylation and inflammation. And then I would look at your omega-6 to omega-3 levels. That's where I would first start, without a doubt. That's exactly what I would do. And then all of those labs, of course, come with a coaching call. So I would love, again, to hear your success story on this. You can overcome this. I really believe that. I had diagnosed as low level, but the asthma as well. When I was a teenager, I had debilitating allergies and, overcame that as well. So Moxie, I know you can do it too, since I don't have any special talents or genetics, that's for sure, in terms of my health overall. So thank you everyone for tuning into today's podcast. I truly appreciate you. I really do. I love this community. And I'll be back tomorrow on our Mindset and Motivation Monday. Talk with you then.